Streamed.
Got it.
Okay. Well, should we just take a quick check and
So Rachel, can I hit that?
Rachel,
I
got it.
I'm on the page and we're not live yet. We do have 7 attendees.
7?
Yeah. Here we go. And here we go. We are live.
Awesome. Yay!
Welcome, welcome. We're excited to be real live on LinkedIn this morning for the second in the CultureTalk Activation Tour. Cynthia and I are here this morning for our second week, and we're excited to take you on this tour of all the different ways that our certified partner community is activating CultureTalk Profiles to bring to life things like coaching and communications, which we're going to dive into today with our special guests from Articulate, Real, and Clear. Cynthia is going to introduce our guests in just a moment. But before we do, I just want to set the stage for what this conversation and what this tour is all about. Last week, we took a look at the space around the learning and development community and ways that they could use this system to really improve outcomes and opportunities with leadership and team building and all kinds of training. We're going to talk communications today. We've lined up branding for next week and management and strategy after that. And then we have some topics coming in the new year as well. And so it may seem like, wow, how could one system do all of that? And so we just want to say, stick with us, hang on to your hat. You know, if this topic is not for you, I can't imagine who this topic is not for, who doesn't need to improve their communication. But if this one is not the area that you work in, listen along and continue to stick with us through this tour, because we're really excited to bring with you the evidence, the stories, and the experiences of the people that are out there on the front lines using the work. So with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Cynthia for some introductions of our special guests. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Yeah. Good morning. I am here in Denver, in my office in Denver, and we are joined today by Courtney, Cauthon, and Hilary, Blair of Articulate, Real, and Clear. And you guys are also here in Denver, so fun to have our little Denver moment here. I'm going to let you talk a little bit about Articulate, Real, and Clear, but I just want to say for a moment that you've just celebrated your 10th year in business, and that you have a very unique approach that you bring to the world of coaching and team building related to how we show up and communicate. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, your business?
Sure.
Go ahead.
We do, yes. So we'll be interweaving together here. So interpersonal communications for individuals and teams. We focus quite a bit in the corporate world, not exclusively, but businesses, professionals. And the idea is using the discipline and the techniques of the performing world with those people. So communication, we all have to communicate, and we all have backgrounds in the theater, whether behind or in front of the camera or the stage, research, all of that. And we have found there is amazing power in the individuality, in the uniqueness in each individual, I guess that would be individuality, that we can bring out in teams and in individuals. I guess I think my main thing is that not one size fits all. So for me, the archetypes have been the story patterns that have helped us create this really wonderful, rich, easy to connect to pattern specifics that people go, hey, that's me. Now I know what that's connected to. And it holds that. It holds that form. So that's very not clear. So that's helpful.
Well,
that's
really actually, I love it. And we're going to get to, I want to talk about the archetypes too, but I want to ask a question up front. And that's, I would love to know, why do your clients hire you? Like, what is the reason? What are they looking to accomplish when they bring in your coaching system?
I think people come with really specific issues.
Yeah.
I want a promotion. I have a presentation that I have to give. My team isn't working well together. So they come with that. Then they realize, really, I'm getting in my own way. And so our coaching helps them get out of their own way. And the archetypes help us bring a self-awareness. What are the stories that we're playing out? And how can we use those, the strengths of those stories, in order to build connection with people? And that's what our coaching does. Helps people get out of their own way so they can build connection.
I know you've spoken before about how well archetypes fit with kind of your philosophy to begin with. And also tell me a little bit about, actually when you bring in a new group or an individual that you're coaching, they take the CultureTalk assessment and they uncover kind of their top patterns. Can you walk us through how do you use that in an actual coaching scenario? How does that help them?
Yeah. The first thing I say is that you have probably had many assessments, because the people with whom we're working have been assessed in many different ways. And I invite them to see how the archetypes and the patterns that are showing up hold and enlighten and give specifics to the other assessments that they've had. And many people find that, all the different ones. That's one of the things I love, because I'm about playing well with others, being a theater person. I love that the archetypes invite a collaboration instead of an exclusion. And I think that is what's super exciting. So we give the assessment, and then we have our clients, if we're doing one-on-one, talk through it. Like, where are you noticing? Where are you noticing those patterns? And we invite them to think about other assessments. How does that line up with? How does that connect with other things that you've heard? And the stories, because of the patterns and the archetypes themselves, they start sharing. Oh, it's like this, and I was that role. And then we keep threading that through and bringing it back. So it is an entree. It is a tool that we invite people to use to examine how they're connecting. And we have some specifics with it, right? We have some specifics, cues and clues on how the archetypes show up with voice and words and nonverbals. And that usually doesn't even come till later. The first thing out is how those patterns show up in their experience of themselves as they look back at all their interactions. And then we thread them through. We have a lot of ahas, like, oh, that sounds like, and we have that happen many times. We're like, yes, that is why.
Yeah, it's so interesting how people can see it themselves too. So you're like a guide, leading them through the experience, but those ahas they're having as they validate are really genuine and personal. Yeah.
And one of the things that I found amazing is that the archetypes often give the affirmative or positive spin, lens, energy around something that they may have heard as a negative. Recently, a woman physician, and it was just incredibly successful and incredibly bright, amazing. And the feedback that she had been receiving had a real negative, you've got to stop that energy about it. You're scattered. When we find out that she's got that creator, she's not scattered. She's just seeing multiple options, which is what makes her a really good physician, right? So she's seeing multiple ways to move through things. And giving her that, like, you're a creator, you're not scattered. She's like, oh, it opened it up. And then she can figure out, who does her creator need to be connected to, right? In order to focus. And why is it easier working with one-on-one? The creator doesn't get distracted. Like, one-on-one, I'm going to figure out what's going on with you. With a group, the creator can have a lot of things going on. So
I got that. I resonate with that.
And I joked with her. I said, I would love to be in one of those escape rooms with you. Like, you'd be the perfect person, because she's like, I have 6 possibilities. That's 8. So 6 possibilities of getting out of here. Yeah. So
Yeah.
It moved her into who she was and her possibilities versus
Yeah.
being squished.
Do you
And that
then, so
there's a
that's
multiple.
interesting. I'm curious then,
Yeah.
so for that particular client, first you gave them a lens through their creator archetype to stop feeling like this is wrong. This is the wrong way to show up, to start seeing
Yeah.
the positives of that. And then are you also able to weave in some of their other archetypes and stories? What's it like, what's the difference between using one pattern or, more of your patterning?
Yeah, I think that's one of the real strengths of Culture Talk is we're not just one pattern. We're multiple stories all at the same time. And Cynthia, your creator shows up differently than this client's creator because it's a combination of those different archetypes.
Yeah.
So exploring that combination, and when do you need to pull more on your creator? When do you need to pull more on your caregiver?
Yeah.
That's the kind of work we're doing with people.
And I was just pulling
Yeah.
quickly to make sure I know creator, caregiver, magician those are her top 3.
Okay.
I also want to mention that Courtney is really wonderful at reminding us that all 12 are present in us. We are all of the storylines and which ones are showing up at one time.
Yeah.
So I want to mention that too, not just the top 3.
Right.
And then interesting what our latent one may be and why might it be latent and bringing it forward. And so this woman being a creator caregiver, right, makes sense, right? And then magician, she started claiming the combination and where they showed up in different areas for life.
Yeah.
We had another client that we were working with talking about the multiple
Mm-hmm.
combinations. We're doing a training. It's a group of women leaders, and we're having a conversation, talking through concepts and situations. And she is, for me, showing up as that full person. And then we did the classic training situation, which is, okay, let's have you try it on. Let's do a scenario. So she chose a meeting where she was sharing some information, and she went right into a cliche seeming version of now I'm a leader, now I'm a woman leader, now I have news that I need to talk about. And it was like she disappeared, boom, like gone. So we realized she's a hero. So there's a hero in there. She is also a jester and a lover. Which, if you're in a group of women, pretty high-end women leaders, and you see that you're a jester and a lover, you're probably like, I don't think I'm going to bring those into my
easy and fun.
right?
You're not coming to the party.
Energy, totally. That energy had been there. And then when she went into her scenario, they left. And I just said, hey, so now we're in hero. And with the hero, without the other elements, like cooking with one, like I'm just going to have rice, right? Or just salt, right? I'm going to have one, but I need all the other flavors in there. That's the whole dish. So all we simply said was same conversation. Let's remember your lover and your jester. And it changed word style. It was the nuances. The power is in the nuances. It's not like dramatic change, but all of a sudden she was present. Her eyes were connected. She was there. There was a kindness that came through, and it was validated by all the other people on the call. They're like, yes, that. So she's actually, her leader is a hero, lover, jester. That's who her leader is. And that is when she lives in her superpower, when she embodies all of that.
Oh, so
she allowed it, and then everybody else received it too.
Yeah. And she needed that. Because she
didn't feel it. She actually didn't really feel it until everyone said, yes, that's it.
She's so used to switching in and out, right? She's like, that's my leader. So, and then the other is that combination of 3 is who she was. It's who she was moments before she did the scenario. So she was actually dropping into who she is. Yeah, who she really is. So we had to point out, that's what's happening. She went, oh.
And that's more effective. That's the superpower. I'm kind of thinking about myself, and I'm thinking about when my kids would sometimes say to me, oh, you do that phone voice, right? Do we all kind of have like, ooh, now I have to go into my, my fake role that I'm playing versus being who I am. And what I'm hearing from this is just how much more powerful
Yes.
we are when we show up fully.
Multifaceted. I do want to deepen, clarify, expand on a thought. I don't think she was necessarily, this is me, the words that we use because we live in this world. I don't think she was necessarily fake when she was just the hero. It wasn't necessarily as effective. And we also style shift. So you might, there are some times when we use a voice that's fake. We can all be fake. And yet I also many times have someone who will say, hey, my friends make fun of me. They can always tell when I'm talking to my mother, my whatever. And then I say this, I go, that's okay. I actually think I want you to speak differently to your mother than to your friends. So there is some latitude for that shifting, that style shift. Yeah.
And I think the archetypes give complexity and nuance to us. So it's almost like she was stepping into hero and being the leader.
Yeah.
Rather than being herself. And being herself was all of the archetypes together.
Yeah. So instead of being narrowly in one pattern, kind of the
stereotype.
I was going to say that we've been told, right?
Yeah, she was really embracing the complexity of who she is as a human being and as a leader. And that allowed her to connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is where all those things are part of what got her into the leadership role to begin with.
Yeah.
Was tapping into all of that depth and
how
yeah.
Is it when you're working with the archetypes, right? We have a system, they're called archetypes, which may be a new word to people. There's 12 of them. Like, is it overwhelming for a team to try to like understand each other's archetypes, or how does that flow for you?
People get really curious. They want to know more. They know theirs, and then they're like, oh, who's that person? What might that person be? And it provides a common language for teams.
I do think one of the magic, I'm a magician, so, you know, one of the magic features of it is that, yes, we can do the deeper study, and yet we can have them validate, right? Do that talking about where do you notice that without ever explaining the archetypes, because even though some of the words may hit a bias in us or may mislead us, it's still an entree in, because story has been with us since we were being read to in the womb, right? So, and it's a global, we connect across different cultures, the stories, and things may shift. They may be slightly nuanced or even dramatically nuanced. But if I say hero, we know, if we say explorer, we know something about it. It's not the same as saying you're a blue whatever and we want to drop in it. And I love those. I want to make sure, I really love those assessments. They're brilliant. There's a lot of great information in assessments. What I love about the archetypes is the stories are part of us. Therefore, it's an easy entree and it holds space for all the other information we know about ourselves.
Yeah. So it also strikes me that it's kind of fun, you know, and I'm imagining that coaching
theater people. Yes.
Right. Where because I've actually had the awesome opportunity to be coached by your team. And I always think that group feedback to suddenly, when I'm able to shift slightly based on shifting into a different story where you feel it, but then also when you hear the group go, yes, that's it. And then you really go, okay, well, that was almost easier because it felt like me, right? I felt comfortable being myself. It's almost like you gave me permission to show up fully as myself and create that, you know, I mean, it is a little, communications coaching can be intimidating. But then when that happens, when people go, yes, that's you, and you're like, oh, I was just being myself. Tell me about that dynamic on a team. Does it create that feeling for the whole team?
Yes. We're like, yes. And we tend to do our teamwork, and you jump in on this.
Yeah.
We do a lot of our teamwork from the individual perspective. So people doing individual work, how am I showing up in the team? Sometimes people do teamwork where you do an assessment on what the whole team is. So our specialty, our gifts is in that individual
Right.
energy. So knowing how you're showing up, yes, it is amazing on a team. And we know how to communicate with each other.
And we know other people's archetypes and their strengths and possibly their shadows. So it also provides a language to say, you're in the hero shadow, right? Rather than you're XYZ.
Or you're
How can
wrong.
we help move you into the strengths? And so it also is not about the person. It is about the person, and it's not about the person. It's about the pattern. And how do you jump into the patterns and use the patterns and their strengths to build connection together?
And we are both magicians. So we recognize, when does our magician show up as part of a small team, right? When does our magician take the lead, and when do my others step back? When does her magician take the lead and my others step back? So when you have two people who are similar archetypes, though we're very different people, we have, it also is a shorthand in a way that we understand each other in a different way because like, oh yeah, that's the magician. When I have seen with teams is a relaxation. I think this is true with many assessments, a relaxation into, oh, I get it. I'm this, that's who they are, that you can see each other. And with archetypes, you see each other in a story. And if we all have roles in the story, that is familiar to us. And we can say, hey, no one seems to be playing this role.
We need
Who
it.
has that maybe a few archetypes down, or even latent? Can you bring a little of that in? And what does our team need right now? And why, if we have when we work with caregivers, a lot of physicians and things, when we work with physicians, there'll be a lot of caregiver, which I think makes sense. It's kind of handy. And then that's wonderful. When we're working together as a group of physicians, though, what are the other archetypes that help us move policy forward, ideas forward? How do we make change in our hospital systems? What other, yes, we're going to have the caregiver, but who's our explorer and who is our revolutionary? And I was working with another leader recently, and she said, I know, I have to not slow down, but the word was that she needed to be more patient with people. And that again is a negative. And she's a leader, and with her team, being told to be patient is not employing her great skill of being an explorer. So she's out there all the time. If we can recognize as a team member that she's out there and she's a leader, the lack of patience is, yes, the shadow maybe of her superpower. And if we can look at the strength of what she's doing, she's going out exploring, she's changing, getting new ideas, then we embrace what's going on. We actually accept the shadow as part of the process, and then we have other people shore it up. So who's on the team to help make sure everything gets done? Because she's left, she's already gone, she's gone, like she's moving on with new ideas. I think it shows us where the gaps are, and it helps us understand.
That's why
that happens. Exactly. And how do we help shore that up?
Yeah.
So I found it super helpful, even when coaching an individual who's on a team. So it's not even when we coach teams, yes, that's more obvious. And most of us are part of a team somewhere in our lives, and recognizing what's happening with your archetypes and how can you use those to show up.
Yeah,
And
I would say a part of a board where the president of the organization had an explorer archetype. And what I ended up sharing to the other board members was, you have to let this person do that. Like, that is his lifeblood. And so all these great things that you get from this pattern, you would not want to cut that off because you're trying to push him into a more traditional role or an expected box. So this comes with the package, all this great stuff you're getting. He needs a shot of explorer. He needs to feel like he got out there and got that opportunity to, break down some new boundaries and explore and find things to bring back. And so, yeah, it was a very helpful conversation to say, not even, to your point, not even the shadow side, like that's who he is. Like, so welcome it,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm noticing a couple of things. One, that people seem familiar with their shadows. Perhaps they've been called out, sometimes from
Right.
that. Two, as each of you are describing like an explorer in their organization, I'm seeing how people, once they understand that pattern, develop a new appreciation for, okay, he or she does things differently than me, but now I understand that what's driving that kind of underlying motivation is a good thing that we need someone to bring to the party. So I'm sort of seeing, the complexity of each of us, and then when we all get together, how does all of that play out as an opportunity as you're coaching teams in the spirit of how we show up.
And I love that idea. And even knowing you, Cynthia, I was thinking, watching us, the physician I talked about, this leader that I talked about, you, all of us. And I'm just thinking, when you mentioned that it's easy to go to the shadow side, like we've heard that. I find for some reason with high achievers who are trying hard to show up better, they've gotten critiqued on the shadow so much that it's as if that's the lead part of their story or their pattern. And to come in with the archetypes and go, or say to them, yeah, I get that that's happening. Can we just flip it and look at that being the strength? And so for you, right, recognize you have all these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I hear you speak and I can hear that you still at times, maybe not scattered, but something like that, right? That's how it's been described, instead of going, no, Cynthia, what 5 ideas do you have? Well, this gathering that. And I think when we don't understand where someone's coming from, we critique the shadow.
Yeah.
Even if they're not living in the shadow, we see the shadow of their archetype because it's unfamiliar, it's tossing us, it feels weird, who knows what.
Or it's a little scary, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Experience.
And I was just thinking that there are 2 things. One, where people critique us on the shadow when we may not be living in the shadow of it, and yet we claim that definition, versus like I'm thinking that the woman we mentioned who was the leader, who was in Hero and wasn't bringing in her lover and Jester, I believe that the shadow of Hero showed up in her communication, not just that we were hearing, but she was in the shadow, it was narrow, it was driving. And by bringing in the other archetypes, she could bring in the roundness also of Hero. And I think that's different than all the people we work with who want to be better or trying to learn. And they come to us with all these critiques like that. It's just, I'm scattered. I don't know where I'm going. I lose my train of thought. I lose people. I go in the weeds, like all these negative things. And they've claimed the shadow. And then to say, that's really neat, but let's look at this affirmative side. I have a young woman years ago, before I knew about the archetypes, who was changing her voice. She was off voice. She was closing off her shoulders. And I said, what's going on? She goes, I was told that I was a bulldozer, right? And I tell this story a lot. And I said, oh, okay. So what are you doing? She goes, I'm not bulldozing, right? And I said, let's back up. That's the shadow side of some skills. And I go, what are you great at? She goes, I'm great at driving things forward and moving things and getting things done. So somehow she got critiqued on the shadow side of how someone saw what she was doing, being young, who knows the reasons, we don't know. And empowering her to step into it, the strong side of who she was. And now I wish I had the archetypes back then, because that would be so great to say, hey, you can pull in all of these. The danger was that when we get critiqued on the shadow side and we trust that person that they know more about us than we do, which a lot of us do in our journeys of learning, we throw out our superpower with our shadow. We throw out this whole thing. So she had not only was she trying, she just was a totally different person. She wasn't even living into herself. She had completely tossed out, because she was worried about the bulldozer, her strong leader guide person. So bringing that back in, like bring that back in. Long way of saying the archetypes are helpful. Shorthand, easy storyline to bring people right into the power of it, the strength of it. You're a creator. You're not scattered. You see
Yeah,
options and opportunities.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too, like, if we come into a communications coaching, and it's kind of like whatever we focus on, we create more of. So if I'm focused on a shadow and
point.
trying
Good
not
point.
to be that, it almost draws it out more.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I love that, not throwing out our gifts and our superpowers and who we really are and how do we connect authentically. We are huge fans of your work and the way that you're taking the Culture Talk profiles, the story framework into the work you're doing at Articulate. How do people
we're
learn?
cheering here for Articulate.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I love that you're embracing the complexity of who we are as sort of that doorway into connection, and communicating authentically through that. If people want to work with you, where's a good place? I know you got, what's your calendar looking like for 2022?
It's filling up, which is awesome. It's totally filling up. Yes. The best way to connect is, I think we have a website. We have an email at the bottom of us here, articulaterc.com. Articulate, there's a wonderful company called Articulate out there. It's a fabulous software company, and we are not them, but I want to say they are a great company. So we are Articulate Real and Clear. So our website is articulaterc.com, or connect with us on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Call us. I don't know, old fashioned, call us. We like to talk to people and explore what's going on. And I was just thinking, I just spent 2 days full-time coaching morning to night with an amazing team, 3 teams and the individuals. And I was thinking, the archetypes, we didn't do it with them because it's a contract that's gone before and all that kind of thing. And I was just thinking, it's such a great tool when time is short. I just want to mention this to you all. Everyone, time is short, and it's an amazing, and I don't like saying shortcuts because that feels like we're cutting things off. It's a fast track into who we are because stories are part of us. So I want to mention that about you all, that we're finding it as people are hurried, that those storylines are fast tracking into who we are and being able to expand. And so I just want to mention that I think it's a great, not a shortcut.
Yeah. So you guys work with people. People can work with you in remote fashion. Teams can work with you remote, but you also bring your team on site, right, to different client events. So, fabulous to have you join us this morning.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you, and especially getting close to the holidays. So thank you anyone who came to join us today on the live stream. I don't even know, Teresa, if we got any questions while we were.
I'm not seeing any questions, but I think we did offer quite a bit of great information. So,
thank you both. We love your work. We love what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you do have questions about Culture Talk or about becoming a certified partner, so that you can use the tools and the work, much like Articulate is, please reach out to us. We're happy to schedule a one-on-one call, so you can, through LinkedIn, reach out to either Cynthia or myself. And we'd love to hear your questions, as well as tell you about the certification program. We have a new cohort kicking off in January. So we'd love to have you join us.
Do it. It's an amazing group of very dedicated. Yes, it's an awesome community.
All around the world.
All around the world. Yes.
True.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be well. Bye.
Bye-bye.